all doing? Okay, I was actually kind of skeptical. Oh my God, it's 1:30, right after lunch. How many of them are going to sleep, right? But you all seem like an energetic bunch. And every time I see an auditorium full of women, and then somewhere sprinkled in one or two men, I get so excited. It is so nice to attend these events. Not so much for me to, I don't consider myself like delivering something, but it is so much of learning from each other. And I'm sure all of you who have been attending from yesterday has been exchanging a lot of notes, networking, motivating each other, inspiring each other, and all the good stuff. So whenever I get to these, I use this as a learning opportunity. It's kind of like eat your own dog food, if you will. You stand up and you say blah, 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 and advice and everything. Like, this is my kids' language. That's what they would say. Amma, don't just say blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of like, okay, let's try to preach your own, and how fitting it would be for this topic on being a self-advocate, right? So a lot of the folks, right now, we are all so fortunate to be living in such an era where we have crossed all the only syndromes. What do I mean by only syndrome? Does anyone know what's the only syndrome? The only woman, exactly, that's right, yeah. So a lot of them have talked about, they might have been the only student taking physics in a class, or only student in an engineering class, or only women in a team, or the only executive in a boardroom, or any of those. But I think we have crossed all of that. There are so many accomplished women in many disciplines, from politics to design to fashion to technology, entrepreneurs, businesswomen, all of that. But does that mean we are there yet? Do we consider, why do we then have women conferences then? We still need those, like the special area to talk about women, so which means there's still a gap. So we have crossed the only syndrome, and we have come a long way, and we are at this good age. So a path has been paved, but still it's an uphill battle for all of us to go. But one might think, hey, in order to sustain yourself in a corporate world, or even in professional life, everyone need to put together their own thoughts, their own foot forward, and then come up in life. So why so special about women coming up? It's because we have an unfortunate stigma, and also probably with nature, that we are often the caregivers for the family, especially with the biological needs. We are the ones who bear kids, and naturally it comes in with you provide care to the family, you become the support system, and then you would have to balance it out. You're not doing just that, but you balance it out when you come out and when you try to work in your professional life. So that's why it's kind of like swimming an ocean is one thing, but swimming across the tide, cross current, is a completely different initiative. So you're doing two things at the same time. You're trying to balance, and you're trying to do that. So which is why it takes so much effort for a woman, and there is a need to talk about specific things that women need to do in order to promote themselves and in order to move them in their career. My male counterpart could do exactly the same thing, and he might go ahead 2 or 3 steps ahead of me. it's a real fact. All of you might have this. Like at my home, I'm not complaining, but it's a fact that when me and my husband started together, when my kids were young, one of us had to, kind of like take a back seat because you need to tend for other things, which is a good thing, which is really what you want to do, because you don't want to be running at 100 miles per hour, going up on Mount Everest, but without having a family or friends or social circle to come behind you, to cherish you, or to appreciate you when you have reached something. So just running alone isn't the thing. So you would have to really realize what is your world and bring your world along with you when you try to accomplish and when you try to move forward. And oftentimes, we as women have apprehensions about putting us in the forefront. What if I'm too vocal? Or what if I'm really saying something, then people might say I'm aggressive, or, oh, how many of you have gotten the comments from your workplaces like, oh, she's bossy? Yes, I see many hands. Be the boss woman, but do it in a different style, which I'll tell you how. Because people try to, the easiest thing for someone to shut you off is to say you're not a team player, you're bossy, you want to impose your thoughts, and that's how you're moving forward. That's why the act of balancing it out is really, really, really important. When I was asked to send like a PowerPoint for this presentation, I was thinking about, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about. Let me pull some images, some stock images, right? Because that's what I've done up until my previous talks. And this time I did something different. You guys notice what it is? That is me. That's right. So I said, why go do something? Because you have the same thing in you, and if I'm talking about self-advocacy, it would be fitting to bring it in. So these are certain small things that you try to bring it in and practice and move forward with it. So now, what is this self-advocacy? Right? We talked about, yes, we need to be really promoting ourselves. We need to be putting our foot together and say that this is what I want. So that is expressing yourself and making yourself aware of who you are, and then trying to move your life along is self-advocacy. And there are many definitions. I'm not saying a definition, but that's kind of like you are, what is correct for you might not be correct for the other person. So whatever works for you, and another thing that happens more in the professional world is, especially, you might have all seen corporate politics, if there are 4 people gang up and say that's a good idea, then even though somebody else's is another good idea, it won't have its weight. So that's where understanding who you are, picking the right battle, and still taking the course for your life according to your situation is really important. And that's how I see self-advocacy as. Okay, so we have talked about what does self-advocacy mean. And then we have also talked about why it's going to be different for women, because women have slightly different needs. So how do we do it? So we don't know where, nobody knows when we are young where we want to go. Okay, like everyone, we go to school, and okay, you graduate, then elementary, middle school, high school, and then everyone takes different paths based on their own family situations. Again, there's no one right or wrong answer, but determining where you want to go, setting some kind of a vision. But how would you know how to set a vision when you're like 18? You don't know the world. So how do you do that? again, vision need not be one single goal that you set for life and then you're achieving. Vision can be, it's full of you, like how you like to do many different things in life. It can be, hey, in this, I want to do it. I wanted to sing, I want to dance, or whatever you think, whatever you know at that time. Don't just plan like a few steps ahead, but just go much beyond on that direction and say, oh, maybe if I know how to dance a little bit, maybe I want to do a stage performance. I don't know if I'll do it. I don't know if I like it, but let me think that. Just throw that out in that direction. And this particular one is one such. Like I have done all of these. How many of you would believe that I just learned to ride a bicycle 3 years back right before pandemic? I did not know it. And I would crib about it so much to my dad till date. I would say, you did not teach me that. And my husband was fed up one day, and then he said, why are you torturing this old man this much? Get on a bike, and I'm going to teach you. I was like, really? What if I fall down? What if I break my arm, break my leg? That's okay, we'll deal with it, come on. So I did it. And the feeling of riding a simple bicycle, which might be just a simple thing for someone, was so much for me. And I think that was, since I kept on thinking about it, that's not a vision, but I kept on thinking about it and cribbing about it, it led me to it. Similarly, like I grew up in India, where exercising or workouts are not part of our life. A lot of you are nodding, so you could relate. We would, get up, go to school either by bus or train or something, and we were, kind of all our regular activities were around it. So no one really called out a separate time as workout time during the day. So that was something different. So when I came to this country, I saw people saying, oh, I work out 3 times a week. I was like, what do you mean? Which sounded so foreign to me. So like that, I live in a hilly area in a suburb down here. When someone said, okay, let's go for a walk around the neighborhood, the first time I walked, it was a pretty little, steep hill. But I was gasping up and down as if I'm going to die. So I said, oh my God, it feels so awkward that I can't even do it. And I was not like big or anything, but still I'm not able to do it. So maybe one day I should do a little bit of hikes, and I should be able to do it. And I didn't say I practiced regularly, strenuously, or anything like that. I just went around. And now I could pretty much climb any peak in the Bay Area here, which I have done it. So I'm like, okay, so that's kind of like which I never thought I would want to do. I'm just throwing these out as things that you think about something, you put your vision so far. It always need not be, I have to become the CEO of a company, which is good too. But those are not just visions. Even the smaller ones, which are more measurable, which are more achievable in short time goals, are visions too. So we would have to really not have a stigma and not think about, oh my God, I don't want to say that I didn't know it or any of that. Because we are at the time of the age right now where technology helps us so much. Like a few years back, we didn't have so much of GPS or this or any of those. But now, the technology, with the help of your smartphone, you could do anything and everything. I'm going to tell you a story. Like I always listen to Indra Nooyi and all her talks. In one of her talks, she would say that her daughters have like some sort of like a parent-teacher conference or something like that, or tea with the teacher, on a Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. And then she goes, who in the world has a time to go in at 10 a.m.? And then many of us would get into the guilt trap of like, oh my God, I'm not able to do it, and my kid is going to feel for it, and how do I cope up with that? I've had similar situations. When my son, my older one, he was little, he was around 3. This was like, dot-com booms, like the early 2000 stage, when cell phones were not there. Again, I lived in the suburb, and I worked in the city here. A train ride would be an hour and 10 minutes, and then I have to drive from home to the station, park, come in. So it's a good hour and a half. And anyone who has commuted in the Bay Area would know, BART trains are pretty accurate in schedule, but still, the delays, the things that happen in the train, so you can't really predict. So in the dot-com boom, there was a slew of new companies, new people. I was having fun at work. But I would start at 7 a.m. and reach here, and I'll start my work like 8:15 or so I can be ahead of everyone and get things going. There were a lot of youngsters who joined, and they would all stroll in 10:30, 10:45, 11 o'clock, and then they would giggle, laugh, talk. Okay, lunchtime, let's go for lunch. Okay, come back, it's 1-ish, and then I'll be looking at the clock, I'll be busy coding. I started as a developer myself. And then at one point I said, okay, I have to make my time. So if it is 3:55, I would start closing down. I would say, okay, 4 o'clock, I'm out of here, because only if I start at 4, I can catch my train, go back, do everything, and then I can go to the daycare and pick up the kid before 6. 5:30 was the time that I was hoping for. But every day, I would be praying in the train, oh my God, there shouldn't be any delays. My only hope on those days were he should not be the last kid to be picked up. And I've had days where the preschool teacher would have locked down the entire school. She would have him in one hand and her car keys in the other. And as soon as she sees my car pull in, she would be like, okay, don't be late again. And I would be like, ah. So I'm sure many of you would have gone through all of these, right? But now we are at a better age where you can plan better, you can communicate better. In those days, if there is a delay or something, you can't even communicate. You just need to hope, thinking that you would reach and everything is going to be fine. So make use of all the technology that is available to you. And also outsource, outsource, outsource as much as possible. What is more important to me? Spending time with my kid for 45 minutes, or maybe making a meal? Maybe pick your thing. Maybe sometimes put making a meal a priority. Maybe some other times put spending time with your kid a priority. Maybe some other time, if you're supporting a production issue, make that a priority. So be clear, because your situation is going to be very different and where you want to go. So those are the things. And if you really want, there are people who would really want to say that, hey, I need a paycheck, I'm good, and I want to work, but I don't want to go beyond, which is completely fine. Do not get into a guilt trap that if you're only working 40 hours a week and doing what you're asked to do, some people will make you feel that that's not enough and you need to go above and beyond. But if that's your aspiration, then do it. But if that's not your aspiration, then don't do it. Everyone need not become a CEO of the company. Then the company won't function. You need people to go. So whatever is important to you, and at that point of time in life, like as I said, I took a slightly backseat when the kids were younger, but after that, now they're all out of the house. I don't have anything else to do, so I work crazy. I travel crazy, and I do support multiple like nonprofits, boards, and all of that. So there'll be a time of life where you can do, but know yourself. Know what is important to you at that point of time. So the other important thing that I want to call out in professional life especially is we would all, I'm sure this would have happened to you. You would be in a meeting where you'd be thinking that somebody else is talking, and whatever they say, you have a different thought about that, and you are like 95% sure that what your thought is correct, but you don't speak up, and you hold on to it. And then 5 minutes later, somebody else across the room would say, hey, I thought of this. And then you'd be banging on your head saying, oh my God, I thought of it, right? But I never said that. But now all of a sudden that person becomes a hero. Because you have that inhibition as like, am I correct? The self-doubt. What are you going to lose if you had said it at the first place? I mean, even if it's wrong, you expressed your thoughts. So it's, and again, the other thing, so it's always good to put your thoughts out and say it out rather than feel sorry later on. Because we oftentimes, a lot of women have this. It could be, a lot of women think that, hey, I would have to be, I'm doing all my job, the promotion need to come to me. But if you see there is a job opening, if you see there's a possibility, you need to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm qualified, I want to apply, consider me. Or what do you think about me applying? They might say, that's not a good idea, which is totally fine, but at least you need to ask, because nobody is going to really know your mind. People might think, yeah, you're good, but maybe you have other things to do, maybe you're not interested in a promotion or a higher job or any of those. So you need to speak up and you need to raise your hand and say that, which is super, super important. And don't rely, there is, HBR sends these articles every day, and I got a management tip this morning, which was really very fitting for the day, which was like, successful traits for women to be successful. And the first thing was self-advocacy. Express yourself if you're interested. Do not wait for someone to tag you as the best person or the best team member in the team and then expect them to give you the promotion. Nobody will give you the promotion. You need to go ask for it. And you need to say, hey, I deserve it, or I'm thinking I can do it. What do you think? I'm interested. And then they might say, okay, these are your gaps. Work on it, which is totally fine. So at least you know what your gaps are, and you can start working on it. We assume a lot of things. We totally assume that either we don't know, or we might feel looked down on certain things. And that's why a lot of folks do not take the next step to move forward. Oh, I think this is going to be, if I say something, people are going to think I'm stupid, or I'm this, or something like that. But do not assume. One of the tips that I'm going to tell you today is, if you ever have, try to put things in the way of question. You might have been in meetings where you know exactly that what the other person is saying will not work. So typically, women tend to do two things. One, you would shut down. This is a waste of time meeting. I'm not saying anything. That's one way that women deal. Or the second way would be, this is an absurd idea. This is not going to work. Let me tell you how to do it. So you go bang on it like a wall. So the next time you have such a situation, try to do the same thing, but with a question. So try to say, Hey, this is a great idea. I also thought, what do you think of this? Maybe, and then say your thought, and then say, am I missing anything? That am I missing anything is such a powerful magic word that you're going to learn. So people doesn't get affected, they don't get offended, and they would know that you have another thought. So if you have to take away something from this, that's exactly what I would say. Pose it as a question and ask, am I missing anything? And you don't become the bully in the block, but you become a person who would really put your thoughts forward and all. The other important thing, did I do the networking? Okay, let's do this. So try to network as much. I'm sure a lot of you are trying to do here. So what does networking mean? It's not just saying hello and getting connected in LinkedIn. So network intentionally and follow up with people and follow up with them. There are people who do different ways. People who follow up with folks with a spreadsheet, in a constant methodical way, but whatever works for you. Someone said, hey, in order to network, you would have to play golf. If you don't, then it's a career-limiting move. I said, heck no. I don't care. That doesn't fit me. It doesn't belong. I don't belong in that, so I'm not doing it. So whatever you feel is comfortable. If you feel, I've said to people, being in the Bay Area, everybody's a health freak. Start cutting a conversation with kale and quinoa. Start cutting a conversation with, hey, how many times do you do yoga? Or whatever. And those are real good ways to connect with people one-on-one, and you would know the things. So do intentional networking. So you need to break the ice in a conference or in a place where you need to know how to just go in and say, hello, I'm so-and-so. And so prepare that audio tag, depending on the crowd, whether it's a personal setting or a professional setting. Have different 30-second audio tags for yourself. What are you going to say? How are you going to introduce yourself? It's not the same thing. You have different faces. And take that particular 30-second audio tag with you and then say, hey, I am so-and-so, and this is what. So it's relevant to that people. So the opening or breaking the ice becomes easier. And then follow up with intentional networking. And finally, I would say help each other. Right? So as women, we all need to help each other. When we say help, it's not like you're not doing somebody else's job. But if you can give them a hand, or if you know of opportunities that others might be benefited from, then just say it. And in a workplace, if you can cover for somebody else, then do that. Madeleine Albright, the first US Secretary of State, she said, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other. So you all don't need a place in hell. So definitely lend a hand and help each other. So I know I've talked a lot, but as a closing thought, I want to leave you with, one, raise your hand and say you're interested. 2, you should always do not assume that you do not pose things as a question and use the magic word. What's that?
I said, am I missing anything?
Yes, totally. Am I missing anything? So say that and then say, am I missing anything? So it'll help you move. And then network, especially in this hybrid world right now. And I joined my company 2 years back, peak of COVID. So I was not able to see anyone. And there's a lot that we could talk about networking virtually. And that can be another session on its own. I know we are running out of time. But networking virtually, it's an art by itself, which we all need to learn because we, unfortunately or unfortunately, we are going to live in that world of either virtual or hybrid. So which means at least virtual is in a way, it's fine because everybody gets equal square space. But if it is hybrid, some get the advantage of being in person, and the entire body language can emote so much differently, and then others are in the square. So how do you cope up if you're one of the squares when somebody else is in the room? So these are all skills. So those are the things that I would want to leave you all with. And I'm so excited that I had this opportunity to stand in front of all of you and share my thoughts with you. So feel free to connect with me, network. So connect with me. Anyone has any questions, feel free to reach me. And thank you all for the opportunity.